minutes, but don't get too loud. Okay, let's roll. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode. Good morning. Thank you, Chairman. Supervisor Stewart.
Present.
Vice Chair Brophy McGee.
Here.
Supervisor Lesko.
Here.
Supervisor Gallardo joined us remotely.
Here.
Chairman Galvin.
Here. Good morning. Good morning, Supervisor Garter. Good to see you. Glad you were able to make it. And good morning, everyone,
Thank you,
for
Mr.
coming
Chairman.
to Maricopa County Board of Supervisors formal meeting. By custom, we start every meeting with an invocation and a pledge of allegiance. And today, Supervisor Mark Stewart is going to introduce our guests, and then after that, we'll all rise.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased to welcome John Yep of the organization Catholics for Catholics to lead us in today's invocation and pledge. And if I could also make a few comments after the pledge, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely,
Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Supervisor Stewart. Thank you. Everyone rise, please.
I have the privilege of leading a national organization called Catholics for Catholics, but right now, today, what I'm most proud to say in my title is I'm a friend of Charlie Kirk. And I think all of us here in Arizona today, especially this first meeting after the death of our friend and fellow patriot, that we give a special nod to him. He was the kind of guy that you'd wake up in the morning and you get a scripture quote right on your phone. Charlie understood that everything we do here transcends politics. At the end of the day, we have a choice about heaven or hell, and he loved his Lord. I'm going to say the prayer, which was proclaimed in a presidential proclamation 2 days ago from the White House by President Trump. It was a reference to St. Michael the Archangel, that warrior angel from the book of Revelation. Charlie wore a medal of St. Michael when he died, and Erica now wears the bloodstained medal. We will pray that prayer, and if you'll join me. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. St. Michael, the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the wicked spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Now, if you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir, for taking the time to come down here and deliver the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Supervisor Stewart.
John, thank you so much for that prayer and for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. You know, John, after 15 years as a missionary, co-founded Catholics for Catholics in 2022. This is an organization dedicated to ensuring faithful and principled voices of those who love God and the USA are heard in the public square, as Jesus Christ instructed us to not keep our light under a basket. His organization has partnered with several organizations in the last election to turn out the vote, which the Federalists noted as the Catholic difference maker. For this outstanding work, our President, Donald Trump, signed a public letter thanking Catholics for Catholics for their commitment to our nation. He serves on a board of advisors with former Director of National Security General Michael Flynn and Bishop Joseph Strickland and others. John has 2 master's degrees from Rome, speaks 3 languages, wow, and is the recipient of the Phyllis Schlafly Eagle Award. John is a man whose love for God and his country is admirable and motivating. Please join me in giving him a round of applause for the great work he's doing in our community. Thank you, John. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Supervisor Stewart. Okay, now we're moving on to the Pet Showcase by Maricopa County Animal Care and Control. And Kim, who are we with today?
I had to navigate there. This is Tiramisu. She is about 4 years old and 60 pounds of fluff. And I do have a lint roller if anyone needs one after interacting with Tiramisu. She is as sweet as her dessert that she is named after. She first came into the shelter in July as a stray, and she was actually adopted in August. And while she is as sweet as can be and overall a very calm dog who knows sit and shake, she does have one vice, which is cats. They're a little too tempting to her husky brain. So she does need to go to a home with no cats, but she is now waiting for her perfect match. She does love belly rubs and will definitely talk you into giving them to her. And she also loves soft, squeaky toys. It is the first day of Adopt a Shelter Dog Month, and it's also the first day of the Bissell Empty the Shelters adoption event, so coincidence? I think not. So all the adoption fees are waived for dogs 6 months and older, so Tiramisu here has a waived adoption fee until October 15th.
Great, thank you. And what breed is Tiramisu?
I believe a husky, maybe mixed with a Malamute. I apologize for whoever needs to vacuum this room.
And you guys don't get too many huskies, right? This is rare?
Oh, no, we get a lot of huskies. I think at any given time, we probably have more than 70 huskies.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Kim, and Tiramisu, good luck.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you.
She's waiting for more belly rubs. Okay. Moving on to a very important matter and issue for the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors. This is what we're going to proclaim as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And Juanita will read the proclamation, but we also have a very important video message from Supervisor Debbie Lesko that I'll ask everyone to please pay attention to and please pay respect while the video is airing. Juanita, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas domestic violence is an epidemic affecting Americans in all communities, regardless of age, gender, sexual orientation, economic status, race, religion, or educational background. Whereas domestic violence is a pattern where one partner uses their power to control the other partner through physical, sexual, emotional, or financial abuse. Whereas the National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey reports that nearly 1 in 2 women, 1 in 4 men, and 1 in 2 transgender and non-conforming individuals will experience some form of intimate partner violence in their lifetime. Whereas last year, in 2024, 61 people were killed in domestic violence-related homicides in Arizona, 56% of which occurred in Maricopa County, according to the Arizona Coalition to End Sexual and Domestic Violence. Whereas enhanced education, prevention, and intervention efforts will increase public awareness and confront the abuse of power and control in interpersonal relationships. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaim October 2025 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month and encourages all citizens of Arizona to support the efforts of organizations providing education, outreach, and support to victims of domestic violence, and calls upon citizens to dedicate themselves to ending all forms of violence and the abuse of power in relationships. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Lesko, would you like to introduce the video?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For those of you that don't know, I am a survivor of domestic violence, so the staff here knew that and asked me to share some of what has happened to me and words of encouragement.
Thank you.
I want to thank my husband, Joe Lesko.
Maricopa County Supervisor Debbie Lesko has been happily married for 31 years. She has 3 children, 6 grandchildren, and a highly successful political career. But her life wasn't always picture perfect.
My ex-husband was not a good person at all. He would often abused me physically, he abused me mentally, he controlled me, he didn't want me to work, he didn't want me to talk to my family, he separated me from any friends or family so he could totally control me. He would hold knives to my throat and said, "Now you're going to die."
1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have experienced domestic violence. That's according to the Arizona Coalition to End Sexual and Domestic Violence.
This is very prevalent. It doesn't matter what career a woman has, how much money she has. This happens to all women, all ages.
Like many survivors, initially, Supervisor Lesko was scared to leave her abuser.
There were a number of times where neighbors or other people tried to get me help. And when the police showed up, I denied it. I denied that anything was happening because I was in fear of what would happen to me.
She credits her young daughter for giving her the courage to finally leave.
When my husband threatened to steal my daughter, that was the most impactful for me. When he threatened to steal her, I knew he was capable of it, and I knew I would never see her again.
With a $1,000 loan from a friend, Lesko got a small apartment with her young daughter and started over. But she admits there were tough times.
It was very difficult. I remember having this old station wagon, and I was driving on the freeways here in Phoenix, and my station wagon broke down. I didn't have the money to get it fixed. I didn't have the money to take it out of where they impound it. It was a really difficult time. My daughter and I used to share meals to save money. I, Debbie Lesko.
Still, she persevered.
I ran for school board and lost, and then I ran for the state legislature and won, and one thing led to the other, and I made it into Congress, and now as a Maricopa County Supervisor.
Supervisor Lesko wants others to know it is possible to not only survive domestic violence, but to rebuild your life and thrive.
My advice is to any women who are involved in an abusive relationship is to leave. There is hope.
For domestic violence support, call 602-279-2980 or email helpline@acesdv.org.
Supervisor Lesko, thank you for sharing that message. This is a resilient, strong, amazing woman sitting next to me on the dais today, and regardless of her successful political career, flying in Air Force One, being a nationally known leader, advising the president, regardless, her life is fulfilling because of her resilience and her strength and her love for her family. So I want to ask everyone to give her a round of applause, and thank you for saving lives. Supervisor Lesko.
Well, thank you. You're getting me a little bit emotional there. Even though it's been so many years ago, it's still fresh in my mind. I was one of those women that before it happened to me, I thought women were crazy to stay with an abusive man. And I thought, what the heck is wrong with them? They should just leave. It's not that easy. And I think God was, you know, sometimes he plays jokes on us, doesn't he? And put me through this experience because it's part of my life. It's part of who I am. I finally did leave, as was said in the video, and there was some really hard times. But, you know, I never would have dreamt back then when I was just struggling to get by that I would someday be sitting here making decisions for Maricopa County, someday be, as you said, Tom, flying on Air Force One with President Trump. I mean, I have to say one of the pinnacles of my career in Congress was I served on the Judiciary Committee, and President Trump picked me of one of 8 people to serve on his impeachment defense team. And it was just an important time. And so I always look back and I go, God is so good. God is good. He has taken me from really hard and difficult times, but I got out of it. And as I said in the video, my advice to any of you that are out there, because there are probably some people in this audience today that are suffering abuse right now, my advice is get out. Get out of it. You will survive. You will get on your feet. There are groups out there to help you. It's difficult to get out. It's the most dangerous time. That's when historically women are killed when they leave. But you can do it. I'm proof of that. And Usually when I talk about this at groups, every time, women come up to me after I speak and they say, that happened to me. This is very prevalent. It doesn't matter what your education is, what economic status you're at. This happens to all women. When I served in the state legislature, there was an elderly woman in Sun City who called me and said she was being abused by her longtime husband, and she wanted my help. And so if you know somebody, if it's not happening to you, but if you know somebody that's happening, try to help. It's difficult, but try to help. Get them out of the relationship. And as you can see from my life story, there is hope. I not only survived, but I have thrived. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Okay. I'm going to go to my colleagues here on the board, and then Supervisor Gard, I want to go to you last. I'm sorry, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. I served for 2 different governors on the Commission to Prevent Violence Against Women. And I was at my very first event, and I was so excited. It was on the Capitol Mall down at the, Arizona State Capitol Mall. And who should I run into but Senator Lesko? And she told me her story. And I could not believe it. But she said, I'm here to honor and help women who are in this position. And I subsequently went on to work with Supervisor Lesko and now County Attorney Rachel Mitchell on legislation that would make a difference for women and victims working to escape domestic violence. And I always talk about the fact that I am a moderate or middle Republican, and I went to a commission meeting and I heard about this massive legislative improvement whereby victims of domestic violence could prepare their exit plan. Up to and including the point where they picked the date where they would go to court and get the injunction to prevent, injunction against harassment. And what always happens is the abuser comes home and searches the browser history. They won't find it. So they could get the kids, the dogs, and make their escape. And I thought it was the most wonderful, practical, amazing improvement. And I said, well, who sponsored that bill? Eddie Farnsworth. And let me tell you, I bumped heads with Eddie all over the place, but I went back to my office, walked up to him on the floor, gave him a big hug, and he's looking at me like, ah. And I said, thank you. You made a real difference. So thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Lesko.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Supervisor Stewart.
Thank you, and thank you, Supervisor Lesko, for that inspiring story. I mean, it's something that I will share with my daughter, and I think it's a testament to the will of you and for many others that need to get out of those situations. As men, it's our responsibility to protect women, children, and so it's a time for us to stand up and speak about domestic violence, to prevent it where we can, but be the honorable men that we're required to be to do that. So thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Stewart. Supervisor Gardo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and first and foremost to Supervisor Lesko. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I know it's not easy. I have worked and helped and assisted so many survivors, and I know how tough it is for women and men to share their story. But your story sends volumes to the 14,000 county employees and across the county. For those that are hiding right now, they're scared, they're embarrassed, they don't know where to turn to. You have made it that much easier for them to know that they're not alone, that there are people in powerful positions like yourself that are there, that understand the situation. And that is probably the most powerful thing as any of us, particularly a survivor, to do, is to be able to share their story. So thank you, Supervisor Lesko. Debbie, thank you so much for doing. I know it's not easy. I know it's tough, but it goes such a long ways. When we celebrate, and I don't need to tell folks this, but when we celebrate, not celebrate, but recognize October as our Domestic Violence Awareness Month, it's something, yeah, we do it for a month, but we need to be doing it year round. To be able to constantly send that message to our employees, particularly those that are in a tough, ugly situation. Again, they don't know where to go. And I'm hoping, Supervisor, let's go, that there is an employee out there that's watching and listening to this. And hopefully they will pick up that phone and make a phone call to many of the providers across the county that they can get help. And so thank you so much, Supervisor, for sharing that story, because it is so powerful. And Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you can see, but I am wearing my coalition to end domestic violence and sexual assault. I'm wearing my coalition tie. I was talking to folks this morning. I need to wear it more often. I think we need to continue to have this discussion, not only in October, but throughout the year, and continue to emphasize to those that they're not alone, that we're here to help, and have that courage. Just have that courage. Now, I'll get on my soapbox now, Mr. Chairman, because I think there's so much as policymakers and as leaders we can do. And I think we saw Tom Manos, and I'll share a little story. Tom Manos, my first guy in the office, him and I sat down and I told him, I want to do some more around the issue of domestic violence and how do we bring awareness. And we talked about lighting our building purple. So let's light it purple, as bright as we can. And he goes, Supervisor, I think we can do that. And he did. With his help, we lit that building purple. And what have you seen over the last 10 years? You've seen the state capitol turn purple. You've seen, I was meeting with some city council folks just a couple of weeks ago, and they said, Steve, it was because of the county that we lit our building even more purple. And you're seeing the Supreme Court, all the county or the state buildings are purple. I know in my neck of the woods in Tallis and in Glendale, the city halls, the police stations are purple. And it shows, what something as simple as lighting a building, the message it sends, could just send waves across the county. It's reminding everyone that how important it is for us to look at those that are suffering or in a situation that they just need help. But I think we can do more. I think the state legislature can do more. What you're seeing right now are so many survivors right now that have nowhere to go. We need to be looking at housing. We need to be looking at counseling. We need to be looking at social workers. How can we invest our dollars to help it make it more easier for men and women to leave a terrible situation and be able to help their kids? I think that's what we really need to be focusing on. How much can we do as a state, as a county, as a city to help provide the services and the programs that many of these survivors need? And it's not cheap, I get it, but it goes a long ways to saving lives. And that's what this is all about, is how do we save lives? How do we protect the kids? And so I'll get off my soapbox, Mr. Chairman. It's something that's so passionate about. But once again, Supervisor Lesko, thank you so much for sharing your story. Again, it is so powerful, and it sends a message to our 14,000 county employees and people across not only your district, but my district, that they're not alone, and that's the important part. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Gardo. We're all wearing purple up here today in solidarity with domestic violence victims. It's something we do every year, along with the proclamation. I also want to thank our communications team, Jesse, Scott, and whoever worked on that powerful video. Did such a good job of telling Supervisor Lesko's story, but also raising awareness for this issue of domestic violence. And frankly, out of all the videos our team produces this year, that's probably the most important video, because I think we would all agree that's the video we want as many people as possible to see. And I think Debbie Lesko just said it as good as you can say it. God is good. And if you're in the situation where she was in, you got to get out. And I do know that Maricopa County cares, and we have a lot of people in our various agencies and departments who are ready, willing, and able to work with anyone who needs help. And we're ready to offer and extend a hand of friendship and of love. And if anyone here in this room or anyone watching knows someone in a situation like that, please let them know that Maricopa County is here for them. And I want to thank all of you for being respectful during this time, especially during the video and during Supervisor Lesko's remarks. Thank you, everyone. Okay, moving on. Planning and zoning consent hearings. Sorry, I'm going to pull my other binder here. Items 6 through 10. Does the board wish to pull any of these items, 6 through 10, on the planning and zoning consent agenda? Seeing none, the board will now consider items 6 through 10. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of planning and zoning consent agenda items 6 through 10 in accordance with the commission recommendations as shown in the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Supervisor Stewart. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Moving on for planning and zoning hearings under the regular agenda, number 11, carefree commercial. Madam Clerk, do we have an announcement on this item, number 11?
Chairman, this item is going to be, or I'm sorry, there's a request per the applicant that this item be continued to the November 5th, 2025 meeting.
Okay, and this is in Supervisor District number 3. The board will now consider item 11. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move item 11 be continued to the November 6th board hearing so I can meet with the developer and discuss a precise plan of development that demonstrates neighborhood commercial needs are being met, that adequate infrastructure will be in place for any commercial uses, and that site development adheres to scenic corridor guidelines and is compatible with adjacent residences. Additionally, this continuance will give me the opportunity to provide direction for future requests for commercial rezoning within the Carefree Highway Scenic Corridor.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Chairman, just for the record, that date is November 5th.
Okay.
My apologies. I'll amend my motion to say November 5th.
5th. Okay.
Second.
Thank you, Supervisor Lesko. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? None. Madam Vice Chair, thank you for your leadership on that issue and that agenda item. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to statutory hearings under Clerk of the Board, item number 12, liquor license applications, Catrachas, Mini Market, and acquisitions of control for Olive Market. Madam Clerk, are there any speaker forms received for items 12A and 12B?
Chairman, none were received for these items.
Okay, the board will now consider those items. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of item 12A and 12B.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Supervisor Stewart. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously. Under statutory hearings, transportation, item 13, road file declarations, A through C, road files as listed on the agenda. Items 14 through 17, patent easement abandonments as listed on the agenda. Madam Clerk, are there any speaker forms received for items 13 through 17?
Chairman, I'm going to read out the names. These were received on item number 14, and these speaker forms received are all in favor, and they wish to speak only if necessary.
Okay.
Michael Schroeder and Deborah Schroeder, Aaron Tweedy, Spencer Lyman, and Pan McMahon.
Okay. And all of them are only to speak if necessary?
That's correct, Chairman.
Okay. The board will now consider items 13 through 17. If there's any desire to hear the speakers, otherwise, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Madam Vice Chair.
I move item 13A through 13C and items 14 through 17 with additional comment, thanks to the McDOT, Department of Transportation, and the Planning and Zoning Department for the extensive education on patent easement abandonments.
There you go. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I want to thank the folks who came down here for this morning's hearing. Thank you. Moving on under statutory hearings, air quality, number 18, Rule 353, storage and loading of gasoline at a gasoline dispensing facility. Item 19, Rule 352, gasoline cargo tank testing and use. Madam Clerk, are there any speaker forms received for items 18 and 19?
Chairman, yes, we received three speaker forms. Blue Crawley wishes to speak on number 18. Diane Barker wishes to speak on both 18 and 19. And we have John Opatek wishes to speak in opposition on item number 19.
Okay, Mr. Crawley, please comes down, and Ms. Barker.
My card was in first, Supervisor.
Come on down. Ms. Barker, is it okay if I give you 2 minutes for both items?
Yes, that's
Okay,
fine.
thank
Thank
you.
you, Supervisor Galvin. And I'm in District 5, and I just want to say to my supervisor, Gallardo, that I do agree what he's saying. We needed more work on domestic violence. And he said men and women. And so we must remember that both of the parties in there. Okay, so now on this, there's not sufficient information, and I've talked to Phil McNeely about this. They're talking about EPA in 2024 saying that, and mind you, since 1988, there have been 5 times for the first item, 18, and 6 times that they've done some revisions to the state SIP. But the fact is, it hasn't come into compliance with the federal government, and it talks about revisions for both of these, but it doesn't identify what revisions were on there. Now, I talked to Phil. I said, are we lessening or increasing some controls, particularly Maricopa County, which is some of the worst air quality in the whole nation? He says, well, we always make more controls that I'm submitting to you. I am surprised after rereading both of these for, it's at the airport and it's loading of the gasoline facility and the cargo. There's not sufficient information on what's doing to make revisions to this to be in the state SIP, and I ask you to table this, please.
Thank you. Next speaker, Mr. Crawley.
What she said. And taking it a step further, I'm going back to when they did a whole thing on the gasoline storage facilities to finance the light rail and cut off from the bus system. I mean, there were billions of dollars that were dealt with that. And Debbie, I see you nodding your head. You remember that? And I'm going, okay, this is a statutory hearing on the air quality. And then I look at your agenda, and there's 51, an agreement with the Regional Public Transit Authority to pass through funds to the Air Quality Department, and I can't figure out that, and it's one of the things that I did put in, so I'm hoping that you will pull it so I'm able to address this later. Since it is air quality, I'm believing that it's still on the topic that I'm allowed to speak on, which is the gasoline. And I also look at the next one, the testing and such, and as she said, it started, Debbie, way back when they snatched up all those funds. Where's my buses? And now, as she said, and I have no reason to doubt her because I'm glad she got up here first and said what it was that you all need to do, which is table this item. Let's get some more specifics on it and see where it's going and such, because from what I'm reading here, I'm confused, and I don't need to be confused. And if I'm confused, are you? And if you are, table and do it again later.
Thank you, sir.
And as I said, please, 51 so I can come up here and speak on the RPTA.
Thank you, sir. Before the clerk calls up the next speaker, I'm just going to say that I'm going to call on the county manager after the third speaker for just general comments about what we heard. Madam Clerk?
Item number 19, John Opetek in opposition.
Good morning. My name is John Opetek. I work for Diamond Trucking. I am in opposition of the Maricopa County Rule 352, gasoline cargo tank testing and use. It should be pointed out that the Maricopa County leak test is redundant to the annual federally required Method 27, with the readings for the two tests being identical. The differences between the two tests are just the order in which each sub-test is completed, the test date requirements, and the Maricopa County processing fee. The test date requirement for the annual Method 27 for loading terminals outside of the Maricopa County jurisdiction can be tested any date of the year with an expiration of the completion date plus 1 year for no fee. Maricopa County has test date windows that need to be followed to receive an expiration certificate and decal for the fee of $280, and with our fleet of 77 trailers, totals $21,560 a year. These test date windows put an extreme amount of unnecessary stress on the limited cargo tank repair facilities to complete testing and repairs in closing. My recommendations is for Maricopa County to let all loading terminals recognize the annual Method 27, make testing a year-round process, and in turn make it fee-free to the redundancy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. County Manager Kokorski, any comments on what we heard with these three speakers and their contributions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The purpose of this rulemaking is to address deficiencies identified by the EPA. And if we don't address them, we could be subject to sanctions from the EPA. If you need more specifics on the rule, Philip McNeely, who's the director of our Air Quality Department, is here.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Lesko.
I would like some more information on the number 19, or was it 18? Number 19. The last speaker who is opposed talking about redundancy with other regulations.
Good morning. Good to see you both. And please introduce yourselves before you speak.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Supervisors, I'm Philip McNeely, the Director of Air Quality.
Kimberly Butler, I'm the Planning and Analysis Manager with Air Quality.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Chairman and members of the board, these rules have been in place since 1988. The reason they're here is because of the ozone challenge we have. Since 1988, let me see which one you wanted, the tanker. Item number 19, since
Phil, could you please bring your microphone closer and lower so people can hear you?
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Yeah, since 1988, they were correct. It's been revised 6 times, and recently we've done it. This is our 3rd time for the 2008 ozone standard. So what happens is when the EPA changes the ozone standard, we have to look at all of our rules that contribute to ozone, which is all the NO2, nitrogen oxide rules, all of the VOC rules, which is gasoline rules, and they have to be consistent across the country. So we've actually done this rule this is our 3rd time for the 2008. The first time we did it, it was in 2000 and let me look at the dates. Losing it. We did it 3 times. The first time they gave us a conditional approval, which means we had to change it to make them comply with their requirements. The second time we did it, they have us a limited approval and disapproval, which just happened in January. And so now they had just 2 small items we had to fix. And so the items that we're fixing had not anything to do with the method that the last speaker talked about. That's been around for quite some time. So basically, if you use the same test method here in like California, you can still use it. It's just that the challenge is using different test methods because we have to go to EPA and they have to approve it. That's one of the changes they actually have in here is we had a provision where the director can make changes, but they have to always buy off on it because this goes into the EPA implementation plan, which is the Clean Air Act, so they have ultimate authority to approve and disapprove stuff. So the detail, do you have any more detail on the exact? I mean, I didn't, this was something I wasn't expecting because it's been in the rule for quite some time. So,
All of the test methods that are in the rule are approved by the EPA, and we have to only use the ones that they have tested and determine are applicable. There are other states that use other rules, but they are not in their SIPs, and they would be in different situations in those states. But if it's the same test that's been done in another state, we can transfer that over here. We do have a window of the testing, but it can all be done here, out of state and pulled in with those results.
and Chairman, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, so the requirement is every year, those tanker trucks that you see driving around, they have to be tested once a year to make sure they're not leaking. And we give them a decal. So then when we inspect them, we know that they've been tested. What we've changed in this rule is EPA said what happens if there's a leak between that year. So we put some provisions in there where we could force another test if there's leakage and stuff. And it's like, a year's not good enough if you actually have a leak. And we have reporting and stuff into this. This is revisions for this rule. And then we had in there, like, we can do alternate test methods in this rule. They asked us to change that where we can do alternate test methods as long as EPA agrees with what we are agreeing with. So those are the two changes. But the provision's been in here for a long time that we're talking about.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McNeely. Supervisor Lesko, any more questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, members of the board?
Mr. Chair, thank you.
Stewart?
I'm concerned about the redundancy from the federal aspect and then what we're doing as a county. And if there is overlap there, can you explain that a little bit for me? Because I don't want to be doing something at the county that the federal government's already doing. Are we doing that on behalf of the federal government? Just help me understand that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman and Supervisor Stewart. Yeah, this would be on behalf of the federal government. So this rule will be approved by the federal government, put into the SIP. So we have to use federally approved test methods. So these test methods that we use have to be, they're approved test methods that EPA approves. And they have a whole list of them. Every year we go through and we say, we're approving all these test methods, and there's dozens and dozens and dozens. So that prevents local jurisdictions having to figure out test methods ourselves, and we don't have the staff to do that. So we just use federally approved test methods, and that's what this is.
We use federally approved test methods, and then our staff is the one that goes and does the testing. So what service are we providing as a county to adhere to the EPA standards?
Chairman Galvin and Supervisor Stewart. Yeah, so what we do is they get a test from some facility that complies with the test method, and then they show us that they have the test done, and then we give them a sticker so they can operate in Maricopa County for that year. So we're doing the inspection. We're not doing the testing. We're the inspectors.
You're reviewing their work, and then we're charging at the county $280 per certificate for that?
Yeah, it's technically Chairman Galvin, it's a permit. It's a general permit we have. So we have like thousands, I think it's over 1,100 trucks that we have to process and inspect. So that's what that pays for. It's we're a fee-for-service program.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. So we are inspecting the trucks?
Well, when we go and we see them, that's the actual, we don't test them, but when we see the sticker, like when we go inspections of the gas stations and stuff.
Like a water meter reader?
Well, not exactly. It's more of, if you have the sticker, it means that you've been tested and you have a permit from us to operate in Maricopa County.
Okay.
So if you don't have a sticker, we would say, where's your sticker? They would probably have to go get tested, and they would have a problem
More
with
like
that.
a verification.
A verification, yes, sir.
All right, love to circle back with you on that, maybe one-on-one, and kind of talk about the fee versus the service we're providing. But thank you for that background.
Okay, Madam Vice Chair? Supervisor Gardo? Okay. The board will now consider, thank you both for answering all those questions, and thank you for the folks who provided public comment. The board will now consider items 18 and 19. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of items 18 and 19.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Thank you, Supervisor Lesko. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to the Board of Supervisors consent agenda. Supervisors, do you wish to remove any items from the consent agenda? Hearing none?
Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Stewart, yes, you do have one, I believe?
Yeah, I'd like to speak about, get a presentation on item number 94, please.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Item 94 will be pulled off consent. So the board will now consider items 20 through 93 and then 95 through 99. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of items 20 through 93 and 95 through 99.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Supervisor Stewart. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously. We now move on under the former consent agenda to item number 94, which is Transportation System Plan 2050. I want to look at you, Mr. Stewart.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to get a presentation from staff on the background of this particular item, what the funds will be used for, and kind of the long-term plan here.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Jesse Gutierrez, Director of Transportation and County Engineer. The Transportation System Plan 2050, essentially, it supports the county's comprehensive plan, the 2040, by statute. It's the transportation element of the comprehensive plan. Essentially, this will identify roadway needs, set performance measures. It'll help us set a clear vision of our roadway system and the needs of the roadway system for future years. We usually go on a 5-year cycle and identify the needs on a 5-year cycle and extend it out to the far future, 2050. The study will really help us identify the needs in various ways, but essentially it first will give us the status of our current roadway. It really gives us an in-depth understanding of where our system is today. And it'll consider population, growth, development, and other factors such as zoning and future traffic generators that will impact the system and the safe and efficient movement of goods and services for the traveling public. It'll set that framework for the future system by allowing us to have a glimpse into what is coming, what our needs are going to be, so that we can plan for them, so we can be effective with our funding and our planning and our design work and the outreach and everything that goes with the roadway system. It'll prioritize and identify those needs based on data. That's very critical that we bring that forward. It's really data-driven analysis that we look at, statistical analysis that shows us where the needs truly are. We also perform funding analysis to identify the funding and those gaps that we might have, so we can try to fill those gaps before we get there. We create a phased implementation plan to identify when and how we can build these most effectively, because as part of this plan, being a proactive plan, we have tremendous outreach with other agencies, particularly cities and municipalities, because our systems intertwine. And it's very critical that we build the infrastructure in unison to be more effective and to have that ability to leverage opportunities for building our infrastructure in the future. The transparency comes because we have tremendous outreach with the public. We reach out to HOAs, community development groups, developers. We have open houses. In fact, there's placeholders for open house meetings that each district, each board member will have the opportunity to host, and we can have the open discussion with the public and get feedback on what they're really seeing, because the traffic, the eyes and the ears of the public are very critical for us to also take into consideration. What are you seeing? What are you feeling? It's part of that development of the plan. We take everything into consideration. And then finally, again, it's really data-driven. We look at the data. Where is the traffic? Where are those traffic generators coming from? Where do we need to address the traffic? And intersection improvements, road widenings, whatever it might be. So, thank you.
Thank you for that. And so just to, what's the timeline on this? And then, as I understand it, this is so that we can get the plan together for the entire region for Maricopa County, so we know where to widen our roads, where we know where to build new roads, and incorporate those things so we can get people moved back and forth from work or wherever they need to go. Is that essentially what this is the plan?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Supervisor Stewart. It's a plan that we want to start implementing right away. So to get that going, this is the first step, is to get the consultant on board and start that process, start that outreach, start the data gathering. We expect that about this time next year, we would be putting forward a proposal to the Transportation Advisory Board, which they'll be involved all the way along. We have quarterly meetings, but at this time next year, we expect to have a proposal in front of your Transportation Advisory Board that then will make a recommendation for approval by the board.
Well, thank you for that. I know that I've got some neighbors in Queen Creek that'll be excited about being involved in that plan. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Stewart. Any other questions? None? Supervisor Gardo?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk.
Chairman, if you wish to take public comment on this item, we did receive one speaker form.
Yes.
Marissa Hamilton is in opposition.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Chairman and Supervisors. Thank you for having a public comment on this item. I've been traveling a bit. I did 2 tours across the country with the grassroots, and it's exciting to be back with all of you today. I have concerns about this item because of the company that you have doing this. Their history shows that last time they did a plan, they presented it a year, or they completed it a year after the schedule, and so that's very concerning. I also have concerns for the people that are involved in the project, because many of the people on the project are familiar to me from the city of Phoenix. They're the people that destroyed downtown Phoenix. They're the people that added road diets, limited parking, made it increased traffic congestion on purpose, and the reason why is because they build their policies based on transportation demand management, and that's what this plan is also based on, is transportation demand management. That's a World Economic Forum program that intends to make driving annoying, creates traffic congestion, has road diets, has bike lanes competing with regular roadways rather than having those bike lanes be off roadways so that it's safer for bicyclists. And so I don't think that we should be Klaus Schwabing Maricopa County. I think instead we should be doing a program that does actually widen the streets, like you said is the intent. So I have concerns about who's part of this plan, because their track record shows that they are going to destroy Maricopa County like they destroyed downtown Phoenix, and it impacted all the businesses in a terrible way. There's been many businesses that have shut down because of their poor transportation planning. So if you're going to move forward with this, then you need to really micromanage it and make sure that they don't do the bad things that they did to Phoenix across Maricopa County. Thank you.
Thank you. City of Phoenix and Maricopa County are very different in terms of how they're structured, and also, of course, in terms of the political outlook of who's serving in these positions, and ultimately we're accountable to the voters. Okay, is there a motion for this item?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of agenda item 94.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Supervisor Lesko. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, moving on to the regular agenda. I want to thank some folks that are here for these regular agenda items. Thank you for being so patient. And Mr. Driggs, are you still here in the audience? There you are, sir. Great to see you. Thank you for your service to Maricopa County and to Arizona. We appreciate your presence here. Okay. Under elections, canvass the returns for the September 23rd, 2025 special congressional District 7 general election. Scott Jarrett, please come up. You know what, actually, you have a presentation, correct? How long is it going to be?
Mr. Chairman, probably about 5 to 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. Go ahead then.
I'm going to give some documents to the clerk to make sure. All right. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for allowing us to be here today and for your consideration of canvassing the results for the special general election for Congressional District 7. So, all in all, it was an incredibly, is that better? All right. So all in all, it was a very smooth election with real no issues to report, but the canvassing is a requirement out of state statute, and it does serve as two purposes. One is for the Board of Supervisors to certify the results in Maricopa County, and then those results get transmitted to the Secretary of State, who then can aggregate the results from all the counties that were participating, and then they can certify the results. But it also is a post-election day process of all the auditing and reconciliation that goes on within the elections department to bring forward those results to ensure that the election was done with integrity and that it was done with accuracy, and that you can be confident that the results can withhold scrutiny, or withheld any scrutiny that may exist. So I have a short presentation here. So in Maricopa County, we were one of 5 counties in the state that that was offering the special election for Congressional District 7. We had just shy of 60,000 total voters in Maricopa County. There was over 400,000 statewide. The largest county that had voters was Pima County, which had well over 200,000. So we had just over 9,209 ballots cast. Those ballots were comprised of some different categories. Those were from voters that voted in person early, so 72 voters participated that way. Voters that had a mail-in ballot that dropped it off at any one of our voting locations or a drop box, that was 1,360 voters. Voters that voted on election day, 371, or voters that voted a provisional ballot, that was 3, or voters that chose to take that mail-in ballot and return it through the post office, and that was 7,403. So well north, or just over 80% of our voters did choose to return their mail ballot through the mail, not through one of the other options that we have provided. And that is consistent for these smaller type jurisdictional elections. I did want to highlight, though, for as far as turnout percentage, Maricopa County had just over 15% turnout for this election. And then if you go back to 2018, that's the last special election that we had in the state of Arizona for a vacant congressional seat. That was actually CD8, and I believe Supervisor Lesko was the winner of that contest, but there was just over 40% turnout in that general election. So this election was far fewer turnout from the voters as compared to 2018. And then the last special election that occurred prior to that was 2012, and that was also Congressional District 8, but when that Congressional District 8 overlapped mostly Tucson area, and that had over 53%. So this was a very low turnout election, just for your reference. So just a summary of the election, we did have 8 vote centers that were available for voters to be able to participate in the election. One that opened through our phased opening approach, which was 27 days before Election Day. Then we did have a few other vote centers that opened up on the Friday before Election Day, one in Gila Bend to make sure that those voters that are in the far south portion of the county could have access to an early voting location as well as an Election Day voting location, and then also another voting location in Tolleson. So we did have, I included on here adjudicated ballots. So adjudication is a process, it's actually called electronic adjudication. And this is something that's required by both federal and state law. And it's to review a ballot for voter intent if our tabulation equipment can't determine that voter's intent. And for the most part, that's because a voter is voting for a write-in candidate. So they'll fill in the oval, right, and our tabulation equipment will identify that that oval's been filled in, but then we need to have a bipartisan board, a Republican and Democrat, sitting next to each other, determining who's that vote for? Is it for a valid write-in candidate, or is it for just a non-qualified write-in candidate? So out of the 44 adjudicated ballots, 18 of them were for write-in candidates. Other reasons something might go to adjudication is if someone overvoted a contest, and we need to verify that the voter didn't correct the vote. So very few ballots in all went to our electronic adjudication. And again, we hire citizen boards to come in and do that work for us, not the county staff within the elections department. Also, we had 24 duplicated ballots. And I do get questions about, well, why do we have to duplicate a ballot? So a duplicated ballot would be sometime if like a voter was returning their ballot through the mail and they had damaged it themselves. Maybe they spilled coffee on the ballot or they tore the ballot. Well, that ballot can't be read through a tabulator, right? So would have to duplicate it, would create an exact copy of the original ballot, would attach marrying numbers to the original ballot and the duplicated ballot that could be tabulated. It also could be situations where we'd have voters that have requested large print ballots. So those are big ballots on large pieces of paper that can't be read by our tabulators, or a voter that needs a Braille ballot. And then again, we have to duplicate that ballot on something that could be tabulated. So 24 total. So this election, we had 65 poll workers. So we're very grateful for those poll workers. No one was expecting to have this election, and most of these poll workers worked both the July primary election and the September general election. So very grateful for our community members stepping up to assist us in this election. And then we also had 19 temporary workers come and work at our central counting facility, McTech, to assist us with this election. So here's back to my opening comments about canvassing. So what canvassing entails, right? There's a cure period. So really, if there wasn't this statutory required cure period, and this is like if a voter's signature was questioned by the recorder's office, right? They have this period after election day that would allow them to be able to resolve that situation. Sometimes it's a voter, maybe they've signed a ballot and they've broken their right hand and they're right-handed, and so they sign with their left hand, and during that process, the recorder's office is able to resolve and say, oh yeah, this voter did truly vote this ballot. So that cure period was through end of day Sunday, 5 p.m. So, and there actually were, I think, about 15 ballots that cured on Sunday. So the elections department and the recorder's office were open to be able to serve those voters. And then we got those ballots tabulated and reported on Monday. Then we did our post-election logic and accuracy test on yesterday, Tuesday, passed that with flying colors. The political parties were performing a hand count audit of the ballots post-election day. I was doing reconciliations with my team of the number of voters that checked in at the voting locations with the number of ballots that we tabulated, making sure there was no variances there or identifying why there would be a variance for this election. There were 0 variances. So all of these steps that are taken to compare these results for you to be able to canvass that election today. And that is everything I have for this canvas. I do have a short little discussion on what's coming next, but I wanted to make sure that I answered any questions that you had for the CD7 canvas before I go to this last slide.
Okay, Supervisor Lesko, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If we can go back to the, I guess it would be the first slide that says turnout, in-person voting, mail-in ballots. Back there. Okay. I just want to confirm what I believe to be true. In the in-person voting, voted early in person, 72. Are those the number of people that actually put a ballot in the tabulator at the voting center?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Lesko, the people that actually put a ballot in the tabulator at the voting center on Election Day are the people that voted on Election Day 371. The 72 were the individuals that went to an early in-person voting location, checked in, got a ballot printed to them, they put it into an affidavit envelope that then came back to the central counting facility, went to the recorder's office.
I misspoke. So yes, so they showed up in person at a early voting center location, checked in, and then got the ballot. Then it got into an envelope. That's right, and then they put it in the drop box, if I remember correct.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Lesko, that's correct.
Okay, all right, that's 72. Then they dropped off a ballot, 1,360. Now, do you have a breakdown or not of how many of those, because let me ask you a question, let me back up. Most of the drop boxes are in the voting center, correct?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Lesko, that is correct. We only had 2 that were not in a voting center for this election. One was our outdoor drop box at McTech, and the other was in Avondale City Hall that was next to, just right outside the voting location. And because Avondale City Hall, their hours of operation for their city hall are, they open before our vote center opens during early voting, and they close afterwards. They would find that sometimes voters would come in and then put their ballots just on a counter or put them in like the library drop box that they had there. So then we put that drop box in the actual city center, but there is a security guard next to it that's monitoring it.
And that was my point. So either the drop boxes are within the voting center when it's open, where people can show up and check in, or they can already have their early ballot completed in the envelope, and they just drop it in a drop box, but it's within the voting center. And there were only 2 locations of drop boxes that were outside of the voting center within the election time. And that is the one at McTech, which has a camera on it 24/7. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then the one in Avondale, which I saw because I went to this during the primary special election in CD7, which there's a physical person there all of the time watching, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Lesko. Any other questions from the board or comments? Supervisor Grotto?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just a real quick shout out to Scott, his team, all the folks that are involved in, once again, conducting an election. Yeah, this was a special election. Turnout normally are not that high in special election, but nonetheless, let it be a congressional election, let it be a small bond election for school. We take, Maricopa County takes every election serious. We do everything we can to allow every qualified U.S. citizen to be able to cast a ballot. And just, again, once again, I've been in those shoes. I was there as an election employee, so I know all the time and work that goes in for all the men and women there in our elections department on both recorders and election side that put in to conduct the election. Just a big shout out and a big thank you. And Scott was absolutely correct. I did not get one phone call, one complaint or concern from anyone in this particular election. So big thank you to all those that were involved in conducting the election.
Thank you, Supervisor. Anything else, Scott?
Just wanted to highlight, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, that we've pretty much been in a continuous election since May with the jurisdictional elections and then the special primary and the general election. And we have an upcoming November jurisdictional election. Now, this is a county-wide election. Well, there's 30 total jurisdictions that are participating. There's 5 cities and towns, 4 special districts, and the remainder are school districts. But one of those special districts is a county-wide district. So this is going to be an all-mail election. And that means over 2.6 million voters will be getting a ballot by mail. This is regardless of whether they're on the active early voting list or it's everyone who's registered to vote will receive a ballot through mail. And I just wanted to highlight that. And ballots have already gone out in the mail for those military and overseas voters. Those mailed out on just before September 20th. The last day to register to vote for this upcoming jurisdictional election is October 6th, and then 2 days later, October 8th, is when all those ballots will go out in the mail. So some of those voters that aren't signed up on that active early voting list may have a question and say, why am I getting this ballot in the mail? And it's because the jurisdictions for those elections, they called an all-mail election, right? And it's much more cost beneficial for the taxpayer. That's one of the reasons they call those all-mail elections. And so just making the public aware that they will be getting a ballot in the mail if they're registered to vote for this upcoming November jurisdictional election.
Thank you. Supervisor Lesko.
Thank you. And Scott, could you also explain to the audience and the people listening how they can track their ballot? So let's say I mail in my ballot. How can I keep track of it to make sure that you received it?
So, Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Lesko, yes, you can go to beballotready.vote. That's a personalized dashboard where you can log in, and then you can see lots of other information in addition to your ballot status. But then it also will allow you to sign up for emails and text messages. So then you can be notified when we start preparing your ballot, which usually happens almost 2 months before an election, right? And they'll get a notice that your ballot's being prepared. Then when ballots mail, you'll get a text message or an email saying that the ballot's been mailed. Once you've returned it, you'll get a text message saying that the recorder's office has received it. Once it's gone through signature verification, you get a text message that's saying it was signature verified and was good signature, that had a good signature and is proceeding to tabulation. Or if your signature was questioned, you'd get notified that way with directions on how you can cure your signature. So it's a very valuable service, and that's beballotready.vote.
Madam Vice Chair. Supervisor Stewart. Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me, Chairman.
Yes.
We do have 2 speaker forms on item number 100.
Great. Please call out the names.
First speaker is Lori Baroni, followed by Marissa Hamilton, and she is in opposition.
You're bad. Good morning, Board. First of all, I'd like to ask, when and how long is it going to take y'all to start implementing what our President Trump is calling for in one day, one vote hand counts and no mail-in ballots? That's going to be coming down the pike real soon. Have you all started preparing for that, Mr. Jarrett and company? But let me first finish what I wanted to say before you answer that. This canvass is not the end of an election. It is the beginning of accountability. And by the way, 84% and plus of this agenda is off limits for the public to speak of. That is not transparency and accountability. Pay attention. The people expect leaders to take responsibility for how elections are conducted, not leaders who hide behind staff reports and legal minimums. 2 meetings ago, Chairman Galvin, you said Maricopa County is leading the nation. But leadership is not found in minimum standards. Leadership is found in maximum transparency, maximum accountability, maximum protection of citizens' rights. This low turnout that you talk about, Mr. Jarrett, I guarantee you is because people have lost complete trust in your ability to handle elections properly. If you want this canvass to be meaningful, then commit today that you'll open the process, record testimony fully, stop gaslighting the public, guarantee chain of custody, and implement corrective action plans. Because without accountability, a canvass is nothing more than ink on paper. Follow President Trump's recommendations for one day, one vote hand count, no mail-in ballots. Also, you start using corrective action plans, as you've been advised many times. This is the only answer to contracts not being adhered to. This is how we got to the place of fraudulent elections and so many other crimes being perpetrated on the public. Stop denying the fraud. The CAP process is already recognized in Arizona federal regulations, and when an audit is compliant or performance gap is identified, the CAP turns into a clear action plan with accountability and verification.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Marissa Hamilton.
Oh, thank you, dear.
Chairman, supervisors, a few different things here, but I also have a question which I'll leave to the end. Just a reminder, I wasn't going to bring this up, but it was part of the presentation, so I will. You all sat here just a couple of months ago saying that you were appalled that voters that are disenfranchised from this election would get unsolicited ballots. There was 34 voters, and that you said that this was against election integrity and that you all stand for election integrity, but now we just heard that you are going to be sending unsolicited ballots to all Maricopa County voters and not providing in-person voting locations, which you could do. I know the jurisdictions didn't ask for it, but you could still do it. So I just want to point out that hypocrisy and gaslighting that you put us through. Number two, I want to demonstrate why the Board of Supervisors should never control early voting, and that's the fact that in this election, those two precincts I talked about, Mobile and Bullard, they had 0 voters voting on election day because you didn't provide them an in-person voting location when you could have. You could have provided a mobile voting location for them. And so today, when you certify this election, you will be certifying the disenfranchisement of voters. Supervisor Gallardo said that disenfranchising one voter is one voter too many. Congratulations, you disenfranchised nearly 100 in this election. And so I think that it demonstrates that the legislature was wise to allocate those duties to the recorder, because clearly the county Board of Supervisors staff is incapable of fulfilling their duties for early voting. But my ultimate question to your staff is, did the reconciliation process actually match up the poll worker reports in the reconciliation process, or was it just a thing where you set those poll worker reports aside and then reconciled the records unto itself, which is what the 2022 records show? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the reconciliation did include looking at the reports prepared by the poll workers, and that did find that they matched perfectly.
Okay. And there's also a distinction between cities choosing all-mail elections and the way that the election was conducted for the primary, correct?
Correct, Mr. Chairman. State statute does allow for cities to call and other jurisdictions to call all-mail elections, and so that is compliant and legally allowed for in state law, which is different than for a primary election or a general election where it's not allowed for an all-mail election.
Thank you for clearing up that misguided speaker. Okay, let's move on. Supervisor, let's go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Jarrett, this has been brought up before, but one of the speakers said they want one day, one vote. Does the state law need to be changed in order for Maricopa County to do that?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Lesko, yes, currently state law does not allow for that, so to ensure that we're complying with state law, we have to allow for early voting, we have to allow for mail-in voting, and those types of options for voters.
Thank you. And so that's why I bring it up again, because we've heard this several times. And so I had asked those speakers if they want one day, one vote, that they need to go to the state legislature and the governor to change the law. Maricopa County supervisors cannot do it. It would be against the law. Thank you. I yield back.
Okay, Supervisor Stewart.
Thank you, Supervisor Lesko. I was going to ask that same question. As it relates to the people voting in person, can you give me a little background on that, and if there's an opportunity for us to improve their ability to get to an in-person voting location on Election Day? Mr. Jarrett, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Stewart, what specifically about on background on?
Well, I think Ms. Hamilton brought up the fact that there were voters that did not have an opportunity to vote in person. Can you address that or talk a little bit more about?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Stewart, every voter had an opportunity to vote in person. They also had the opportunity to request that a mail-in ballot be sent to them. Because we use a vote center model, that meant that any voter could have gone during the 27 days of early voting. They could have gone to the emergency voting weekend that we offered, as well as the election day. So what's in specific concern was there were 2 precincts where there were no facilities that could have offered and been served as a vote center. Very small numbers of registered voters and registered voters that were not already signed up to get a mail-in ballot sent to them. But those voters still had the same opportunities of other voters because we use a vote center model to go to any one of those in-person voting locations.
Yeah. Thank you.
And Mr. Jarrett, it's not unusual that there's a significant number of precincts around the county where there's no ability to have a facility, correct? This is not unique just to this congressional district?
Mr. Chairman, that's correct. The one thing that's a little bit more unique is just the way that these boundaries are drawn, and those boundaries are drawn by the Independent Redistricting Commission. So normally, like the voters in that Bullard precinct, they would have it like in a presidential election, they would have a voting location in the Australia Mountain Ranch area, which is about 15 to 16 miles away from them. But because that is in a different congressional district and several miles into a different congressional district, we could not open up a voting location for CD7 in a separate congressional district.
And I think that's the irony, that some people have been pushing for more precincts to be created, but if you create more precincts, then there's less availability for facilities to host in-person voting, and that's what that side of the argument refuses to acknowledge. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Jarrett, when we approved the elections plan for the special election CD7, it was my understanding we disapproved the recorder's proposal to mail ballots to people who were not on the early voting list. Did this election and follow through carry out the Board of Supervisors' approval?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor McGee, to my knowledge, it did. I think that question would have to go directly to the recorder's office, but I am not aware of any voters being sent a mail-in ballot that did not request them for the CD7 primary or the CD7 general.
And to clarify, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Jarrett, that would be illegal, is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chair, that is correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The board will now consider item 100. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move the board approve the official canvass for the September 23rd, 2025 Special Congressional District 7 general election pursuant to ARS 16-642 through 16-645.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Thank you, Supervisor Lesko. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion to canvass election carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, remaining under elections, I believe that Zach and Scott are going to stay here. We're now on item 101, establishment of new voting precincts and precinct boundary lines, which is an issue that pops up repeatedly in Maricopa County because we're the fastest growing county in the country. Okay, go ahead, Scott.
Mr. Chairman, so at your request and at the board's request, we provided an informal presentation on Monday that went into detail about all the methodology related to the voting precinct line changes that we're recommending to the Board of Supervisors. State law requires that on October 1st or prior to October 1st of the year preceding a general election, that if there are to be changes made to the voting precinct lines, that they have to be approved by that date. So the Elections Department is recommending that there be changes to 235 of our 935 precincts. Those changes fall into one of four different categories. One is to reduce the size of some of our precincts. So since the 1990s, we've had precincts that had our threshold for the high end of the number of voters that would be in those precincts would be 5,000 voters. So we have some, as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, lots of growth in the far East Valley, in the West Valley, where we have precincts that are exceeding that 5,000 number with room for additional growth. So we've identified precincts and recommended changes to bring those down to under 5,000. Also, sometimes there's situations where the Independent Redistricting Commission will draw congressional district and legislative district boundaries, and they don't align perfectly. And they create small little slivers of areas of Maricopa County. And because state statute requires every portion of Maricopa County have a precinct, that required us to create no voter precincts. So we've taken the opportunity to eliminate situations where we've had no voter precincts created from prior independent redistricting efforts. And then also the Justice Court precincts, they're bringing forward a proposal to modify some of their precinct boundaries. I believe there's a agenda item later on this agenda for that very item. So if those Justice Court precinct boundaries are adjusted, some of those will result in some precinct changes needing to be made. And in conjunction with that, the Department of Public Safety, they've asked for some of those Justice Court precinct boundaries along with the voting precinct boundaries to be adjusted when there was a situation that a boundary was aligned with a freeway or a highway and it wasn't aligned perfectly like with the median of the freeway or the edge of the freeway. So these situations, no voters are being affected, but we're moving some precinct boundaries a couple feet or a few feet to be, instead of going through travel lanes, going on the edge of those freeways. So we're making those adjustments. And then the last category would be when there are situations that some of our precincts, there would be like a city that has city districts, and those wards, sometimes they split our precincts. So for example, we might have Mesa District 1 and Mesa District 2 splitting a single precinct. So we're trying to address and eliminate those situations. We're not able to eliminate all of those because there's sometimes situations with bound precincts and those others, but where there was an opportunity, we're recommending those changes to the board. So that's what this agenda item is.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions?
Yes.
Yeah, Supervisor Lesko.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And Scott, can you had public input meetings on this, correct?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Lesko, that's correct.
And it's my understanding that your office invited people to be on this. And who did you invite? I mean, I was on one of them, but.
So, Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Lesko, we had 5 different public comment meetings earlier in September. We sent notice of those meetings and invitations to the state chairs for the political parties, to the county chairs for the political parties, to the LD chairs for the political parties, as well as the city and town clerk's office. And then we advertise these through our social media accounts to let the public know that we are going to be having these re-precincting meetings. And we went through in detail, and they were all divided up amongst the different Board of Supervisor districts. And we covered each change that was being recommended and what that change was, why the methodology, what was the decisions behind why we're making those changes. And from the public feedback, overwhelmingly it was positive, and there were like some concerns about the why, and once we were able to explain the why this voting precinct was being changed, everyone seemed to understand. So there was no outstanding questions from those public meetings. There's one question through our website, because we also offered public feedback through the website, that's about a precinct up in the northern portion of District 2, wanting the precincts to be drawn based on zip codes. And when we looked at that possibility, that would have then dissected the precinct going through subdivisions, and we attempt not to draw precincts through. We try to keep it a subdivision intact and whole and not have precincts divide those up. So we are moving forward with the recommended precinct changes for that area.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Scott, for that. Yes, I was on one of the meetings where we invited some of the legislative district party chairs on it, and I haven't received any feedback that I know of from any of those. So I think we did a good job, and I think it was helpful to have on the DPS officer that explained why, from their perspective, some of these precinct lines need to be changed, because the precinct lines were sometimes not, if they wanted to give a ticket on a highway, they went to the wrong justice court and that type of thing. So it was helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Stewart.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for that explanation. You know, I received a couple of phone calls as well, and I just want to thank you for your outreach. I think that communicating with the state chair, the county chair, all of my LD chairs were aware as well. I got one phone call. We talked it through, and so your explanation to me when we met was great, and then I was able to convey that to that particular chair, and a couple of PCs that called me as well. So appreciate the follow-up on this, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to echo Supervisor Stewart and say nice job, Scott Jarrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and our fantastic GIS team and the Elections Department staff that assisted with all this work.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Gallardo, any questions or comments?
No, Mr. Chairman, just dittos what you all have already said. Just great job to our elections team. Great work.
Okay, Madam Vice Chair? But do you have any comments or questions?
No, I have a motion.
Okay,
if
but
you're
I
ready.
think we have speakers, though.
That's correct, Chairman. We do have 2 speaker forms.
Great.
Joe Hoff wishes to speak on item 101, and Roger Pickrell also wishes to speak on item 101 in opposition.
Chair, board, here we go again. Thank you for having us out here today, because we think ourselves for being out here today. It's just a great opportunity to be able to raise our voices on the First Amendment. Agenda 101, it's accountability and equal access. It's kind of like at the dinner table, always used, you know, if we have to hold ourselves accountable because we have to access if we came in late, and what we have to explain to Dad. This board is tasked by state law to establish precinct boundaries by today. But that responsibility is more than a deadline. It's a duty of fairness. Every boundary line you approve will decide who must travel farther, who gets split from their neighbors, and who may find themselves cut off from equal participation. That's interesting. We talked about a moment ago about it's too encumbersome to have smaller precincts. I think that's more actually practical, because I'd rather go across the street than across county to go do any business of any sort, really. Gasoline prices, let's start with that. The elections department may say these changes are necessary, but the public has the right to see that necessity explained clearly, and not buried in maps and technical files. I have to agree with that. Communities should never be divided for convenience. Every decision must serve voters first, not government efficiency. Less government, more efficiency for the people. If Maricopa County wants to lead in integrity, it must start by respecting equal access and precinct design. I just mentioned that. Otherwise, you send a clear message that efficiency matters more than citizens' voices. We, the people, want more accountability and accessibility. Thank you, God bless you, and let's keep on moving.
Joe Hoff.
Good afternoon. The boundaries you draw today will decide how citizens access their vote for years to come. Precinct lines are not just lines on a map. And just a hypothetical comment here. I got no invitation to attend any of those meetings you were just talking about, but they determine whether neighborhoods are kept whole, whether working class or minority communities have equal access, and whether voters trust the system. Voters. Yet once again, you have leaned on virtual meetings and technical websites instead of true public engagement. Many citizens had no meaningful opportunity to participate in this process, like I just mentioned. I didn't. True transparency requires more than putting maps online. It requires meeting the people where they are: working families, elderly voters, disabled citizens, so they can see for themselves how these changes will affect them. If you are serious about election integrity, prove it here. Don't treat precinct boundaries as a clerical duty. Treat them as the foundation of trust in our elections. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, any more speakers for this item?
No more speakers, Chairman.
Okay, thank you for your contributions. Is there a motion for item number 101?
Mr. Chairman, I move pursuant to ARS 16-411 that the board approve establishment of new voting precincts and new precinct boundary lines as shown on the maps on file with the clerk of the Board of Supervisors, along with accompanying legal descriptions incorporated herein by reference. This action of the Board of Supervisors shall become effective on January 2nd, 2026 for the 2026 elections.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Supervisor Stewart. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I want to point out and thank Scott and Zach and the entire staff who works on this. This is a very complicated effort involving a large county. But also I want people to know that the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors take election integrity very serious, all 5 of us individually. And what happened in this occasion was that each of the supervisors worked individually with Scott Jarrett to make sure that they understood all of the precinct lines and all of the precinct line changes. So I'm going to speak on behalf of all 5 of us, Scott, but we all appreciate you taking the time to work with us individually in our district. So thank you. Okay, moving on. Board of Supervisors regular agenda, Justice Courts. Item 102, Justice Court precinct lines. Any speakers for this item, Madam Clerk?
Chairman, yes, we do have 2 speaker forms. One is from Lori Baroni, wishes to speak on item 102, and Roger Pickrell also wishes to speak on this item 102 in opposition.
Okay.
Item 102 is regarding the justice precinct lines. So adjusting justice court precinct lines is not just a technical exercise, it directly affects citizens' access to justice. When you redraw boundaries and recreate new precincts, you decide whether the elderly, the working poor, and those without transportation will be able to reach their court without hardship. This board claims the redistribution will support the ideal of equal and fair justice, but equal justice requires more than shifting numbers on a map. It requires considering the people who must travel, the language barriers they face, and whether these new precinct lines will help or harm access. If this change is truly about fairness, then commit to monitoring its impact. Don't just say the courts will be balanced. Show that the people will actually be better served. Otherwise, this becomes about administrative convenience, not justice. Also, I think installing or using CAP procedures in everything across the board would only help matters. And also, I'd like to remind you, Chairman Galvin, that you promised in January for transparency and accountability. Now is the time for you to show you that you're truthful, or are you just being a hypocrite?
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Roger Pickrell.
Chairman, Board, again, we have such opportunity to be able to voice our opinions, and I thank you for allowing us to be transparent on our side of it. And I think that you are going to be able to do that as well because we elected you to do that. State law requires this board to redraw boundaries when productivity credits exceed the threshold. But compliance with law is not the same as accountability to the public. Again, I want to know what's going in the refrigerator when I ask my wife, what do you want me to go pick up at the store so I will have dinner items for you to produce, and or I share with that cooking process. We need accountability to be able to help share information. You held 2 virtual meetings and opened a website, but that is not transparency. Many of the people most impacted never had a real chance to participate in shaping these maps. Hey, if we're going to have a plan, we all be a family. Kumbaya? All right. This redistribution may balance caseloads, but will it balance justice? Well, that's a conversation, I believe. Will rural voters have to travel further? Well, some of us are in different outskirts like the West Valley and East Valley. You know, we need to come into Central Phoenix. It seems very vulnerable, you know. And will citizens in West Valley gain or lose access to resources? These questions were not answered. True justice is not measured in judicial productivity credits. It is measured in whether ordinary people, single parents, veterans, and the elderly get their fair and timely access to the courts. This board should commit to more than minimum compliance. It should commit to maximum fairness and full public accountability. We just need a voice.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
God
your
bless
time.
you.
Appreciate you. Supervisor Lesko.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a presentation on this from the Justice Courts, the presiding Justice of the Peace, on Monday in a public meeting. They also met with us individually, I think. But we're actually adding a court in the West Valley. So some of the goals that the speakers put forward of helping the constituents, that's what actually this plan does. Some of the justice courts, the White Tank Justice Court, had way too many cases, and they testified on Monday that sometimes they had to triple book trials. They're hoping that 2 of the 3 booked trials would actually be settled, and if they weren't, they could only do 1 trial per day because they had to do other justice of the peace work as well. And so this plan actually helps. It really helps the constituents and people that have to go to justice court, so they don't have to wait so long. It's adding a court, and in the future we probably will have to add more courts. Of course, when you add a court, we have to be prudent of how we're spending taxpayer dollars. And that's why at this time, we added 1 court in the West Valley because it's such high growth in the West Valley. Now, in the future, we'll have to add more because not only do you have to have a building for this court, in this case, there was a shell. We're using an existing building that's already used for other justice courts, but they have to pay to, remodel it to make it into a court. But you also have to pay for another justice of the peace, another constable salary, and you also have to pay for all their staff. So it costs taxpayer money. So I think we balance this very well. What we heard testimony on from the justice courts is they tried to, because the West Valley is growing at such rapid pace, they really tried to move it around so that cases would go to some areas that didn't have as many cases as the West Valley or the Southeast Valley has in Mark Stewart's district. And I think they did a really good job, and it will actually help the people that are going to the justice courts, and that's why I'm going to vote in favor of this.
Thank you, Supervisor Lesko. Supervisor Stewart.
Thank you, Supervisor Lesko. Yeah, you nailed it, and that's kind of what I was going to say. I will tell you, if we could just get people to stop breaking the law, I think we'll lower our case law. That would be the goal. But at the end of the day, right, we have to add courts in order to give people their right to the Sixth Amendment, right, which is a fair and speedy trial. And we're getting to that place now where we're trying to balance the budget and the money that we have to be able to allocate to that while also providing that service. And I appreciated the Chief Magistrate addressing that on Monday, that she considers them customers, and it's a customer service to get them through so that they have a fair and speedy trial. And so our job is to allocate the appropriation of the dollars so that they can get those built and get those moving forward. So I'll be supporting this as well. It's a good move. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Stewart. Well said. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to thank, first of all, the active and robust engagement on the part of Lenore Driggs and her, any rate, Jennifer Germain, my fellow legislator some years back. And I intend to support this, but going forward, I would like to look at methods for addressing the hypergrowth while lessening the boundary changes and the addition of new courts and the accompanying capital and personnel costs. I'd really like to take another look at this going forward and see if there's another way to build that mousetrap. That being said, I cannot thank Judge Lenore for your work on this, and thank you.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Yes, I also want to echo our gratitude to Presiding Judge Lenore Driggs. Gave a really good, well-researched, very well-balanced presentation on Monday, and she was ready and able to answer all of the questions that the supervisors had for her, and also the folks that came with her, Mr. Maine, Ms. Owens. They also were absolutely fantastic. And of course, in a growing county, these are the things that we're going to have to address every couple of years, but at the same time, doing it in a way that we're maximizing savings for taxpayers. Okay, we will now consider this item. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that pursuant to ARS 22-101, the board approve changes to the justice precincts, and further move that pursuant to ARS 22-125H, the board approve the creation of an additional justice precinct as shown on the maps on file with the clerk of the Board of Supervisors, along with the accompanying legal descriptions incorporated herein by reference. This action of the Board of Supervisors shall become effective on January 1st, 2026 for the 2026 elections, and then become effective for the purposes of the Justice Court's jurisdiction on January 1st, 2027.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Supervisor Stewart. I do want to point out that Supervisor Lesko and Supervisor Gardo have been leading the way addressing the issues of growth in the West Valley, so we're grateful to them. Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Was that an aye or an A, Mr. Gardo?
Yes, no, I'm an aye. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I
Okay.
apologize.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, under School Superintendent, item number 103, grant funding from the Arizona Supreme Court for Maricopa County School Superintendent to reduce juvenile crime. Madam Clerk, any speakers for item 103?
Chairman, yes, we did receive, excuse me, 2 speaker forms that wish to speak on this item 103. One is from Leslie Shepard, and Mr. Roger Mayap also wishes to speak on item 103.
Okay, thank you very much. Please come forward.
I'm really happy that you guys are doing stuff to help Courtston, and I'd like to follow up with you. I'm trying to work with the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department about getting their body cams caught up because they're like 3 and 4 years behind. That's not due process. And so being that you had just said what you said, I'm going to be pursuing you about this, Mr. Stewart, so that you can help us to get some funding for our police and our Sheriff's Department so they can take care of the people and due process is not spit on. So agenda item number 103, this grant is meant to reduce juvenile crime from by providing career and educational pathways from young people in detention. That's a good step. But it also highlights a contradiction. On one hand, you accept money to prevent crime. On the other hand, you allow obscene and harmful materials in county libraries, and that contributes to the very problem we're trying to solve. When children are exposed to sexually explicit stuff, it actually messes them up and causes them to have harm to their brain. Okay, the other thing is, here it says if we're serious about, So if we're serious about prevention, then we must address the root causes. Protecting children from perverted materials in schools and libraries can be prevented. Okay, providing career training in detention centers. I just pointed at the lady that got the humongous $160,000 raise that you guys gave her, that works for the school the deputy or superintendent or whatever her name is, so I just pointed at her. Providing career training in detention centers is a reaction. Both are necessary, but prevention should come first. Otherwise, you're closing the barn door after the horses have already been let out. And then I wanted to address Article 7, Section 11. You guys swore to uphold the Constitution. That's when it says one day. Article 11, Section 37 talks about how it should be counted in private and voted secrecy and counted
Next
in
speaker,
public.
please. Thank you for your time.
It doesn't have to. Laws, Marbury versus Madison overrides.
Thank you for your time.
Laws that legislate.
Thank you for your time. Next speaker, please.
Roger Mayap.
Good morning. This grant from the Arizona Supreme Court is taxpayers' money. It must be used responsibly and transparently. If the goal is to reduce juvenile crime, then the public deserves to know, one, exactly how much this $50,000, how it will be spent, and what are the outcomes to be measured. Too often grants are accepted with good intentions, but then little accountability. I urge the board to commit publicly to reporting results such as how many juveniles will be served, what success rate will be measured, how will we know this money actually reduced crime. If we truly care about protecting children, then we need prevention, transparency, and accountability, not just another grant accepted quietly without follow-up. Just a reminder, I drive 3 hours round trip to speak 2 minutes. Please make the webinar available. It's already paid for and there's no cost to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. And as I understand it, this is a legislative matter. This is money appropriated by the state legislature to the state Supreme Court. Also want to note that the chief deputy for the county school superintendents is here, and I just want to thank her for her public service. We know that she works hard every single day. Okay, thank you. Any discussions on item 103, or is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of item number 103 as shown on the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Supervisor Stewart. All in favor of this wonderful program, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Moving on to number 104, we will recess as the Board of Supervisors and convene as the Improvement District Board of Directors. Item 104, agreement with Liberty Utilities Corporation, and item 105, minutes. Madam Clerk, any speakers for items 104 or 105?
None on these items, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. The board will now consider items 104 and 105. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of items 104 and 105.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second.
Supervisor Gallardo, finally, just in time. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously. We will adjourn as the Improvement District Board of Directors and convene as the Flood Control District Board of Directors. Item 106, IGA with Maricopa County. Item 107, IGA with United States Geological Survey. Item 108, minutes. And item 109, easement, right-of-way, and relocation assistant documents. Madam Clerk, are there any speakers for items 106 through 109?
None, Chairman.
Thank you. The board will now consider items 106 through 109. Is there a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move approval of items 106 through 109 as shown in the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Supervisor Lesko. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None? Okay, and this time I just want to thank everyone in our flood control district who's been working really hard this summer, especially over the past week, County Manager, with all of the rain and the monsoon that we had to deal with. Okay, we will adjourn as the Flood Control District Board of Directors and convene as the Library District Board of Directors. Item 110, minutes. Madam Clerk, are there any speakers for item 110 for the Library District?
Chairman, 3 speaker forms received on this item number 110.
Okay.
First speaker, Joe Hopp, Leslie Shepard, followed by Roger Myatt.
Thank you. Mr. Huff.
Good morning. When you pass minutes that omit public testimony, you distort history. Previously, Chairman Galvin claimed Maricopa was leading in the nation. That was gaslighting. The truth was placed before you in sworn testimony. Florida, Texas, Idaho, and Arkansas other states are the ones taking action to protect minors from sexually explicit materials in taxpayer-funded libraries. Yet those facts are absent from the minutes you're approving today. Your legal counsel will say you only have to record minimum, but the public has a right to a full and honest record. When you hide examples of real reform, you shield yourselves from accountability. I'm here to say it again so it's on record. Other states are. leading, not Maricopa County. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Leslie Shepard.
All right. So yeah, I looked over the minutes that you're about ready to pass. This board has chosen to reduce the public record to bare minimum. You pass minutes that leave out the names of states and laws that are actually protecting children. This is not transparency, this is manipulation. Chairman Galvin, you told the public, he said it, and he's right on target. You told them a couple meetings ago that you're leading in the nation. That's almost like McGee going, there's a rule, there's a policy. Well, just because you say it doesn't mean it's true. So therefore, that was false information. The states that are leading in the way is Florida, Texas, and Arkansas, and Ohio. States that with parental review boards, rating systems, and bans on sexually explicit books in children's section. We provided those examples, but they vanished when it comes to the minutes. They're not even in there, because I know that you guys are saying, well, we don't have to do that. If your standard is minimum, then you've admitted you are not aiming for excellence. Publicly, you've said it. True leaders do not aim for minimum, they aim for maximum protection of children. And until Maricopa County follows suit, you are not leaders, you are lagging behind, and you're just gaslighting us. So your comment about a speaker, after the speaker spoke, you'd say, oh, well, we're allowed to say whatever we want to say. Well, Arizona Constitution, Article 7, Section 11, lets you know that it's the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November is the day you're supposed to vote. You sit here and defer us to go talk to legislation. Let's go. Well, you know what? Marbury versus Madison in 1803 lets us know that no law coming into effect that goes against the Constitution is valid. It says it's null and void. So you defer us to someone that made a law, lets us know that you don't even know the very Constitution you claim you're going to uphold. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Roger Mayap.
Chairman Galvin said 2 meetings ago that Maricopa County is leading the nation in protecting children from obscene library materials. That statement was false. The public record needs to reflect that. States like Florida, Texas, Idaho, and Arkansas have passed real reforms. They've removed sexually explicit books from the children's section, strengthened parental review laws, and they've established clear rating systems. That's leadership. By contrast, Maricopa County has done nothing but hide behind minimum requirements. Minimum is not leadership. Minimum is an excuse. Today, you are passing minutes that leave out every example we gave you of true leadership across the country. If you will not record the truth in your minutes, then we will speak them here again, time and time again. Florida, Texas, Idaho, and Arkansas are leading. For clarification, Maricopa is following. And again, activate the webinar.
Thank you, sir. Okay, the board will now consider this item. Supervisor Lesko.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to remind people that the public can watch these live, all of these meetings live. And there's also, if I'm not mistaken, Madam Clerk, they're archived as well, correct? So the public can see every single word that is said at these meetings. Is that correct?
Chairman Supervisor Lesko, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
No more outbursts, please. Okay. Madam Vice Chair?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of item 110.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, moving on. We will now adjourn as the Library District Board of Directors and reconvene as the Board of Supervisors. Public comment 111, supervisor comments 112. Madam Clerk, how many speakers do we have for item 111?
Chairman, we received 13 requests to speak.
Okay. Please call out 3 names so someone knows who's next, who's on deck, and who's in the hole.
First up is Kim Baker, followed by Lisa Everett, and then Marina Fatlin.
Good morning or afternoon. Christ is risen. I'm here to, well, I gave a letter to the board, and it's a grievance because the board is in violation of treason. Why? On or about August 9th, the clerk of the Appeals Court Division 2 filed a mandate number highlighted 2CA-CR 2024-0176. They changed the number. The Superior Court changed the number. They changed it to 2CA-CR 2024-0176. This was done on purpose to distract. And Rachel Mitchell should be ashamed herself. Why? This is treason. To do this is not right. And it's going back to the court. But I wanted this board to know what's going on because it's crazy. It's crazy. Christ is risen. Amen. And if you don't believe him, keep believing. One day you will see for yourself what he has done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and good luck. Madam Clerk?
Excuse me, Lisa Everett, Marina Fatlin, Tanawa Downing.
Hi, thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Galvin, supervisors, staff. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk to you briefly about BNSF yet again. I want to talk about the subject of preemption. A lot of people feel, due to preemption, that we are wasting our time collecting signatures and trying to fight this because it's a concept that is not widely known and understood. This law took effect back in the 1800s for the railroads to establish our country. Preemption is important, however, that does not give the rail the right to do anything. Preemption involves many different levels of government approving still of what the rail would like to do. Those different levels would hear public comment just as you do. The good news is, even with preemption, the people have a voice. In California, the rail tried to use preemption to get their way over the people, and I'm happy to report the people won. So these things are not a done deal, and I just wanted to make everyone aware because I know BNSF is throwing that word around, acting like they're the 800-pound gorilla in the room and they can push their way through, but it is not a done deal, and the people have a voice, and I'm grateful to live in a country where we do. Thank you for all you do. Have a great day.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Clerk?
Marina Fatlin, Tanawa Downing, Jessica Saxton.
Hi, good morning. My name is Marina Fadlon, and I'm a civil rights advocate from Maricopa County. I need to provide public notice to the Board of Supervisors. This is in accordance with the USCS Rules of Civil Procedures, as well as Rule 17 and Rule 20 of the United States Supreme Court. The The Constitution of the United States of America is the overarching requirements that every state must follow. States cannot enact their own alternative legislation and substitute it for the guarantees of the Constitution of the United States. That would mean that the state laws are more powerful than the Constitution. Clause 1 of Amendment 5 to the United States Constitution says no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment by a grand jury. However, the state of Arizona enacted its own alternative legislation that permits the prosecuting attorney and police officers to charge by way of information, not by indictment as required by law. That is unconstitutional. An emolument violation is when you pay a public official to break the law. The Constitution has 2 areas that enforce this. Article 1, Section 10 says that no state shall create any law that shall impair the obligation of contracts. Police officers, prosecutors, judges are all under a contract to perform that is based upon the oath or affirmation that they took. The contract parameters are defined within the Constitution of the United States, and when a state enacts an inferior law that directs their agents to disobey the Constitution of the United States, that is a violation of Article 1, Section 10. The 14th Amendment is the other place that you'll find the reinforcement of the issue, and that is where it says that no state shall create or enforce any law that shall abridge the privileges or immunities of United States citizens. I'm also a victim of domestic abuse. However, the abuse I have endured during family court, facilitated by my ex-husband and Judge Melissa Zabor, has been far worse than what I experienced during my 10 years relationship. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Tanawa Downing, Jessica Saxton, and Marissa Hamilton.
Good morning. My name is Tanawa Downing, and I'm the civil rights litigator that Ms. Fadlin was just leading into. So I want to provide a little bit of clarification so we can understand what was just said and what we're actually asking from all of you. When your prosecuting attorneys decide to rely upon an inferior state statute that permits them or directs them to charge by way of information as opposed to indictment as required by the Constitution of the United States of America, they are abusing the discretionary authority with which they're invested in law. Now, they're also committing multiple crimes. The first crime is Title 18 U.S.C. subsection 242, which is deprivation of rights under color of law. The second crime is Title 18 U.S.C. subsection 241, which is conspiracy to deprive of rights. Now, the laws of criminal conspiracy with regard to public officials, all of you, it states that any person who, having knowledge of any of the wrongs conspired to be done and who have the power to prevent or aid in the prevention of commission of the same neglects or refuses to do so may be held as defendants in the action. So upon having been provided with this notice, letting you know that your agents, the Sheriff's Department, the prosecutors, are acting unconstitutionally by relying upon an inferior state statute to abridge the obligations they have codified in the Constitution of the United States of America. I'd ask you guys, please, let's work together to fix this problem, because the alternative is that I will have to convert about 80,000 criminal affidavits into criminal complaints. I don't want to do that. You guys don't want me to do that, and we're not trying to get you into trouble, but you need to be made aware that if you're paying people to abridge their constitutional obligations, that is a crime. It's an emolument violation, and it is illegal. And so I know that you're going to go into your nasty attorney as soon as we're done, whether or not what I'm saying is true, and that attorney's going to point you to a case from 1884 called Hurtado versus California. And before you choose to rely upon that as the foundation, I must remind you that the Constitution of the United States of America is the foundation, not a judge-made ruling. The Supreme Court of the United States has no constituted authority to be able to alter, amend, or destroy any of the provisions or guarantees of the Constitution, because that must be done by an authentic act of people in accordance with the special amending procedure of Article 5. Furthermore, judges cannot legislate from the bench. We know that because Clause 1, Article 1 says all legislative power is vested in Congress of the United States. So I implore you guys, please step up, discharge the duties of your office, fulfill the obligations and promises that you made to the people of the state of Arizona, and let's choose to protect, defend, and preserve the Constitution of the United States of America. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk.
Jessica Saxton, Marissa Hamilton, Leslie Shepard.
Good morning. My name is Jessica Saxton, and I'm also here to provide notice in accordance with USCS Rules of Civil Procedure, as well as Rule 17 and Rule 20 from the United States Supreme Court. So as Mr. Downing was just talking about referring to your law enforcement officers, you also pay your judges and your prosecutors. And you have one judge in this county, like all other 3,143 counties in America, that is acting unlawfully in family court, in juvenile court. And you guys are paying for these crimes to happen. You're paying for the deprivation of rights regarding our families and our children. Not only that, what makes it worse is that you are incentivized to unlawfully remove children from healthy, loving, fit parents. The state incentivizes you all to remove these children under Title 4E, Title 4B, and sometimes under Title 4D. And all of you know this to be true. Judge Melissa Zaber, I have evidence in my possession that she is acting criminally. She has committed felonious acts against families in this county, and you all continue to pay her. Now, that may be because you don't know, or maybe you're not made aware, or maybe you don't have the evidence in your possession. But I'm going to leave here today letting you know that there is evidence of these crimes that she's committing against these families, that she is removing children unlawfully. She's depriving these children of their rights. And you know what? Under 18 U.S.C. 242, if kidnapping occurs, the punishment for that is death. Right. These are our laws. Durlex said the law is hard, but it is the law. So I have in my possession today an affidavit. This is pursuant to 28 U.S.C. 1746. An affidavit pursuant to this federal code is evidence of crimes. And I am here to provide you notice. I'm also going to provide this notice, but this is an affidavit from a mother, and according to Civil Procedure 4.1 DH, I am dropping service, so you will have now been made aware. Misprision of felony is now on your.
Ms. Saxton, I have a question for you. Ms. Saxton, I have a question for you. Are you an attorney? Okay. Mr. Liddy, can you please come up here?
Forget it.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Just have a generic question. Obviously, during the public comment period, Board of Supervisors are not able to respond to members of the public. Are there any guidelines, rules, statutes about alleging criminal activity for a member of the judiciary? How does the board handle that during public comment?
There are some rules on that, and I will advise the board on that in a confidential setting so that the attorney-client communication would maintain its confidentiality.
Okay, please do. Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Marissa Hamilton, Leslie Shepard, Roger Maya.
We need the clerk. Point of order. We have notice.
What do you mean point of order? You have documents, you can bring it up to the side here. The gentleman here will be very friendly. This is Ms. Hamilton's time, so please allow Ms. Hamilton to take her 2 minutes to speak. Ms. Hamilton, please go forward.
Thank you, Chairman Galvin and supervisors. I never thought I'd hear you ever say this is Marissa Hamilton's time, but I appreciate it. I'll take it for the win. I just wanted to clarify that I did check on the laws, and Maricopa County can actually provide and fund in-person voting locations for this all-mail ballot jurisdictional election. There's no law that prohibits it. I too am a survivor of domestic violence, from gross domestic violence, from actually 2 very abusive marriages and other abusive relationships. And so I appreciate very much of the presentation that you did earlier in the meeting for this. Can we have a pause on my time?
Yes, absolutely. Guys, stop. Please, leave. Ms. Hamilton, I apologize on their behalf. How much time did she have? Okay, please return to 1:15, so Ms. Hamilton has time to speak.
Thank you very much. So, coming from the perspective of being a survivor of domestic violence, I do have concerns with some of the tactics that are used to run this meeting. While I appreciate that we do have public comment, and I understand that the law doesn't require public comment on every agenda item yet, I do believe that you could provide the better use of time for the public, where we don't have to feel like our voices are being snuffed out. Because there are items that there are personal experiences of bad things that have happened to us that could inform you of what's going on. There was a couple of items today that I wanted to speak on, but you limit it to 2 comments. I would have been in support of those items, but I think I could have improved them and helped improve the county with my comments. I also have concerns, for example, with your underhanded 2024 SSA, the stunts you've pulled to abuse this meeting and defame your colleagues. I find it shameful and despicable. Even small details like your water bottle policy. My water bottle has to sit outside unattended, while #1 rule of safety is never leave your drink out of sight, but you require it. There's no harm that would be done from my water bottle. It has a water filter in it,
Mr.
so
Chairman, that is time.
Okay, finish your thought.
Sure, thank you. And so I would just like you to take a second look at some of your policies here on how you govern the meeting, and just think about, from a perspective of someone that has been silenced physically, how it could be triggering to come here and have some policies that govern this meeting in a way that's harmful to us. Thank you.
Thank you, and our apologies for that interruption while you were speaking. Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
Leslie Shepherd, Roger Mayup, Lori Baroni.
That was hilarious watching you compliment her when we know that you don't even want to ever hear her. Debbie Lesko, you said that we have this on YouTube. I have asked through public records requests for months now. I wanted to know who's in charge of your uploading, because I'll tell you, on April 9th of 2025, there was an entire section that was muted. Now, it just so happens I happen to be filming, so I know exactly what was said. So in answer to your response, when you justify that we have minutes that are not updated and they don't have what needs to be in there, and then you're like, well, you know, you guys can watch it on YouTube, and, you know, you're allowed to watch this on the webinar. I watched every time you sat here for almost 5 meetings in a row where you got to talk. Why is it that you're allowed to talk on the webinar, but we the people are not allowed to? And why is it that you're going to sit here and defer us to a YouTube video when we have minutes that actually are official? Why would we defer it to a YouTube video that's not even got what we need on it? I have asked for several meetings. I'm wondering, Debbie Lesko, can I go through you to ask you to help me get what I need from the public records request regarding the fact that I want to know who's in charge of doing the uploading, who's in charge of the cameras, who's in charge of cutting off the mic? These are questions I've asked. I've seen you guys cut off the mic, and the chairman hasn't even asked it to be cut. So these are the types of things when you're up there gaslighting to kind of make it seem like it's all been taken care of. It's not been taken care of. You guys literally cut our voices out of this meeting. You've narrowed us down to be able to speak only on two items. Help me to understand where that's our First Amendment right. We're the governing authority. So I just hear a lot of excuses from you guys, and taglines and condescending comments, how you made that comment about her, and then you sit here and, oh, we really want to hear her speak. It's so embarrassing for yourself.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Roger Mayup, Lori Baroni, followed by Joe Hoff.
Chairman and Supervisors, today once again we watched as some of the most important agenda items were moved through on consent agenda, where no citizen is allowed to speak. That is the untouchable portions of this meeting. We are told our voices are not needed, that the minimum record is enough, but the minimum is not leadership, it is silencing. You have silenced us on 84% of the agenda. In those items, you canvassed elections, you redrew precincts, you shifted justice courts, you accepted a juvenile crime grant, and you approved a corporate utility contract. Every one of those decisions directly impacted the people of Maricopa County, their vote, their access to justice, their children's protection, and their household bills. And yet, the people were not allowed to speak. Shame on you. This is nuts. 84%. Most of you are on the board are Republicans. You campaigned on being the voice in the ears of the people. But now that you've been installed into these positions, your actions are the opposite. You ran on accountability, but you govern in silence. You promise transparency, but you hide on the consent agenda. Silence is not accountability. Silence is not trust. If you want to lead, then end the practice of hiding important business inside the untouchable portions of the meeting and let the people speak. Ms. Lesko, you missed the point on what I meant about the webinar. I don't come here to sit and listen to everybody. I could watch YouTube at home. I doubt that you would want to sit look at it on YouTube and let all the other board members sit and talk and you don't engage. We want to engage. Make the webinar available.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk.
Lori Baroni, Joe Hoff, Roger Pickrell.
That was going to be my point. Webinar requests aren't for watching, but for participating. You missed the grand point there. There is no ADA accessibility, and that's also a violation of federal law that y'all have been, ignoring. This agenda item specifically, I'm referring to item number 97 that we were not allowed to speak about. That's exactly what, Okay, we want to have our comments heard. Today's vote was about incorporating federal air standards. That's important, but we've been begging you to do something about our air quality here in the valley for the couple years that I've been coming. When citizens raise their air quality concerns that affect our neighborhoods and our families, we're told to go to the legislator or to federal agencies instead of this board. Yet here you are adopting federal rules by reference without even hesitating. Why is it easier to give our authority to Washington than it is to listen to your own constituents? You often boast about how this county is not in debt. If that's true, then why do so many real needs like clearing body cam backlogs, protecting public health, the bus stop access, or expanding true access to participation, did those things go unfunded or ignored? When we're told there's no room in the budget for people's priorities, it makes these boasts ring hollow. So to understand this item, since you've asked for comments, my comment is this. If you can incorporate federal voices into our regulations, then why can't you also incorporate the voices of the people who live here? Don't just adopt Washington's rules, adopt a culture of listening to Maricopa County residents. That's what will give real meaning to the words solicit comments. And most importantly, start using corrective action plans, as you've all been made aware of, that these are corporate and worldwide Six Sigma standards. Stop gaslighting the people about leading the standards at anything, because you don't.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Clerk.
Joe Hoff, Roger Pickrell, Blue Crawley.
Chairman and Supervisors, again today, this board praises itself for approving grants and programs that supposedly reduce juvenile crime. But children are not being protected at the front end in their schools, in their libraries, and in their neighborhoods. Sexually explicit and perverted materials remain available to minors in taxpayer-funded libraries. This is where prevention should begin. You cannot throw grant money at detention programs while ignoring the root causes of harm. Protecting children is not about glossy projects. It is about drawing clear boundaries between what is appropriate for adults and what is appropriate for children. Yes, yet this board hides behind minimum standards and refuses to take decisive action. Most of you campaigned as Republicans, promising to defend family values and be the voice of the people. But once installed here, you have abandoned those promises. You allow obscene materials to remain accessible to children while congratulating yourselves for reducing crime later down the road. That is not prevention. That is reaction. Protecting children is not optional. It is the first duty of government. If you continue to refuse, then the people will take note and hold you to account for every harm that could have been prevented. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk.
Roger Pickrell, Blue Crawley, and the last speaker, Albert Rivera.
Sharon, board, we're just getting to have a good day today, I think. I just wanted to reinstate an opportunity that's going to be this Saturday, the 25th. It's a great idea, and I've been sharing it, and I shared it verbally, and I shared it through invitation here at this meeting, and I sent a letter out, and I thank you for some conversation that we had, Ms. Lesko. It was very, very refreshing, and I thank you for the enlightenment. But I still think that there's, even with all that, you know, we're all part of the Republican Party out here, most of us. We would acknowledge, and I have an invitation now that I want to make sure I reiterate that it's going to be this Saturday, October 4th, 10:30 to 1 o'clock at Culver's at 130 North Estrella Parkway in Goodyear. And that's, you can RSVP JEANNEHERRMANN at mail.com. And it's brought to you by LD22, LD23, and LD25. And we're going to have another hand count party training session. And it's open for, I wanted to, once again, for open meeting rules so we don't get in trouble. I'd like to invite again Mark and Debbie, because you're in my LD4 district over there, and it would be a great honor to be able to have a little coffee and donuts and some fun, to be able to sit down at a table and exercise some of the things that we do for hand count training. And eventually, we'll start spreading the fun out to each and every one of you, and I just thank you again. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk.
Blue Crawley, followed by Albert Rivera.
It might have been that none of you were listening or whatever when I spoke on the gas thing and said that there was an item 51 in the document that according to the Code of Federal Regulations, CFR 450, being a transportation thing, that I have the right to input on it. And I've repeated it over and over again that when there's stuff there for the RPTA, et cetera, I have the right to input to get you guys to do things. And on that 51, I'm looking at it and I'm trying to figure out which way the money's going and for what. Now we go to 99, the plan. Is you going to have the bike lanes and the bus pullouts as a part of that plan going into 50? Because the Regional Public Transit Authority is for the region, which is Maricopa County. What part of the roads that you're responsible for don't need to have a bus to get the citizenry from place to place? Where is that in that document? Then we go to my little favorite. I've requested from both you and Steve to find out how much money was spent on the rail and how much was spent on the bus for Prop 400 so that we can see how much of the negativity. I remember one meeting where they took $91 million away from the bus and put it to the rail. I also know that it cost $500 million a mile on the South Phoenix extension. Where are my buses? Where are my bus pullouts? Where are the bike lanes? Where did that money go? And who was the one that made that decision? Oh yeah, you electeds and over.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk.
Last speaker, Albert Rivera.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Albert Rivera, and first off, I just want to say this to my supervisor, Debbie Lesko. From the bottom of my heart, I'm truly sorry for what happened to you. Nobody, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, nobody deserves to be tormented by folks who engage in domestic violence. All men and women deserve to have safe and beautiful lives like the people who were tormented by one man here in Maricopa County, and that is Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Mr. Galvin, I'd like to make my thoughts known with you, if you don't mind. 3 months ago, you came to Maryville and turned the meeting into a political rally. Yeah, you can smirk all you want. You turned the meeting into a political rally, and then you left midway through the meeting, which is absolutely disrespectful of you to do. And you want to sit there and say and smirk that they're having these secret meetings. Let me just remind you of something. Are you aware that there were meetings that there was a meeting last year, October 24th in Mount Olives. There was another one on February 5th in Guadalupe, and there was another one on April 16th, 6 months ago, in Sunny Slope. But oh wait, oh yeah, these meetings are so secret. You want to talk about all this money, but keep in mind that the guys that were responsible for wasting all this money were Joe Arpaio and Andrew Thomas, and that was 17 years ago. But no, you want to give them a double standard because it's Joe Arpaio and Andrew Thomas, your favorite sheriff, of course. But guess what? Yeah, if you want to supposedly hold the people of the ACLU accountable, well, I'm here to tell you this: I'm holding you accountable, and you ought to be ashamed of yourself for absolutely spitting on the faces of each and every single person in that meeting. You turned it into a political rally. The same exact people that want to say that, oh, the Melendres case is everything political, both of you made that event political, and this is all your fault. People like you disgust me. Have a good day.
Thank you so much. Madam Clerk, is that all?
No other speakers, Chairman.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to go to the county manager, and then I'm going to go down the line and end with Supervisor Lesko. Ms. Pokorski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you mentioned earlier, we had a tremendous amount of rain this last weekend, and I just wanted to give kudos to our flood control district for monitoring the dams and all the structures to make sure people were safe from flooding. The Sheriff's Office, I understand that they did over a dozen rescues. Also, Department of Transportation, they helped shut down roads to make sure people were safe. And then also our Department of Emergency Management, who is still working hard. We have staff that are supporting Globe in their recovery efforts since they were hit so hard. And our emergency management folks are still supporting them. So I just wanted to give kudos to all those staff for keeping us safe.
Absolutely, thank you. Supervisor Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for a great meeting. You know, a few weeks ago, we lost somebody I think that was important in the theater of dialogue, right? And I think that's what we're challenged with here in many ways within the country, within the county. Charlie Kirk passed away, but there was an amazing memorial at the State Farm Stadium. And I have to tell you, I've never experienced that type of spirituality in person, listening to 80,000 people sing from the top of the rafters, and the spirit of unity that came through. And not everybody there was Christian, but many of the people there felt that spirit of unity that came from the death of a man that wanted to have dialogue, that wanted to speak about things, that was in pursuit of the truth, and they recognized that when the conversation dies, that's when people they lose their person, right? And that's why I'm grateful to the folks that come down here and express their frustration with their government. Some of it's our fault, some of it's the state, some of it's federal, some of it's local. But that is what we have in a constitutional republic, is the ability to have dialogue. And I think Charlie Kirk was able to present that and portray that in a way that unfortunately we're going to miss. So I want to thank the collaboration of state, federal, local law enforcement and first responders that kept that stadium 100% filled. There were so many people down there that they opened up the arena next door where they used to play hockey, but we're working on getting hockey back. Thank you, Chairman Galvin, with another 18,000 people. And, you know, the most amazing thing was that sense of community. When it was over, everybody picked up their trash, everybody left, everybody looked forward to what was coming ahead as it relates to having more dialogue and continue working on this great experiment, which is this constitutional republic. And so that last weekend, I went to the first capital of our country in Philadelphia and sat in the room where they signed the Declaration of Independence that was inspired by Thomas Paine's common sense, right? Which was that our rights are inalienable. They don't come from us, right? They don't come from a governing body. They come from being a human being, and they come from God. And I thought it was just powerful to juxtapose those two situations to where we are today, to where they were then, and this fear that, oh my gosh, things are so bad. We had a civil war, right? We had the revolution of Revolutionary War. We've had the Vietnam era, so many times where people have been at odds with one another. And I think that through communication and through meetings like this and through listening to our community, we're just going to get better. But don't lose the person that's sitting up here. Don't lose the person that's standing in front of the lectern, because I think we can have conversations and get to solutions. Mr. Chair, we were lucky enough to go to the East Valley Partnership, and I appreciate you coming. Well, actually, it was in District 2, but the East Valley Partnership put on an event where Chairman Galvin was able to share some of the work that we've been doing here in the county, and I left that meeting proud. While you were speaking, I was proud of the work that we're doing, and this is, again, it's a process, right? Government will never be perfect. There's no perfect solution to all the issues that we have in our lives, but we were able to continue to move down the tracks and get some things done. And that was no reference to BNSF, by the way. But I want to thank you. But I think the coolest thing was we had CBS national correspondent Robert Costa, who was there, and he covers a lot of Republican and conservative think tanks. And he left us with this last thought. When I hear about this country is divided, I don't think about it as a reporter in terms of polarization, red or blue. This country is in pain. When I spent my whole life traveling, the country is not having an ideological debate. The country is having a search through darkness for light. People are looking for answers, sometimes turning to different parties or different political leaders to find that. And what I left with that thought was, he was saying that if you're struggling making ends meet, or if you're doing some things like that, the answer is not to look to government to solve that for you. The object is to look within and find that spirit within you to be better and improve your life. Thank you to the board and Chairman Galvin for allowing me to serve on the MAG Community Initiatives and Coordinating Committee meeting. The purpose of this group is to synergize all the different nonprofits that are working in spaces like domestic violence, for example, and bring those all together and come up with ideas that we can create more synergy through that. And then the canvassing, thank you, Mr. Jarrett, for bringing forward the canvas for CD7. I've done a couple of tours now, and I want to thank staff over at the Election Center for helping me observe logs and audits, Dropbox couriers, adjudication. I met with a number of citizen board observers. That was really neat to listen to them talk about how they adjudicate ballots and not signatures, but adjudicate ballots and what they think of voter. Guys, fill in the circle with the black ink. It's super easy. But the stories that they told me about the things that people put check marks or they draw a line all the way through was fascinating. And so it will help them go home to their families if you can get those done correctly. But I want to thank staff for letting me do that tour. We will continue to do those tours. I know that most of the board here is doing those as well. But that's all I have for you for today.
Thank you, Supervisor Stewart. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this message is to wives, daughters, sisters. With my three sons, it was the look. I guess with my husband, it was the voice. But please hear me. Early in my legislative career, I worked with a Democratic lawmaker to change the rules about breast cancer treatment options for uninsured and underinsured women and men, because men get breast cancer too. And we were able to expand coverage so that those in need of it and diagnosed could be treated despite their insured status. And then the question came forward, well, what are we going to do about prostate cancer? And men are different to work with than women, but we proceeded along. But then in 2018, a federal commission produced a horrendous, awful recommendation related to prostate cancer. It's slow. By the time you get it, if you're diagnosed, you'll probably be dead anyway. I have never been more horrified as a wife, as a mother, as a sister to 5 brothers. And unfortunately, these came from a very official source. These recommendations were adopted by health insurance companies, by doctors, insurance plans, and the whole view of men and men's health changed. However, thank you, Emily Parrish. Thank you, County Manager Pokorski. That has begun to change. This year, Maricopa County adopted a different idea, which is health screenings for employees, including a fasting blood draw, adding in a prostate-specific antigen PSA screening to the blood draw options. If you are a man approaching 50 or over 50, you will have the option of getting a PSA test at scheduled on-site events in September and October. And if you guys hang around and you miss the deadline, go to your doctor, get an exam, and get an order for that blood test. It will save your life. I speak from personal experience. If you allow prostate cancer to go undiagnosed, it is a horrible, prolonged, painful death. If you catch it early, it is so treatable. So again, with thanks to Emily Parrish with our Human Resources and County Manager Prikorsky, it's different. So my message in my best mom voice, the look, get your prostate screening blood test now. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to very quickly talk about the D3 team busy between September 11th and October 1st. We spoke to the North Glen Square Community Association. We met with new Phoenix Police Chief Matt Giordano and some Sunny Slope leaders at the Sunny Slope Police Substation. We spoke to the Bell Road Business Alliance. We participated in a glorious ribbon cutting with the New River Kiwanis Park. And Mr. Chairman, thank you for the appointment to GPEC. I had my inaugural meeting, and I came back and attended the County Supervisors Association board meeting. On Friday, September 19th, I attended the Phoenix Committee on Foreign Relations Global Envoy celebration, where Mayor Kate Gallego received an award. Thursday, September 25th, Coffee with a Cop, Desert Horizon, and we spoke to the North Central Phoenix Homeowners Association meeting. This past Saturday, and I'm still recovering, the City of Phoenix had a synergy conference that awarded neighborhood groups throughout all the city council districts awards for their efforts. Since I represent 6 and a little tiny bit of 7 Phoenix council districts, I was there with bells on, and so was my staff, my team. And then last night at the East Sunny Slope Block Watch meeting, we honored Caleb Zimmerman, who is leaving as our community action officer and going on the bike squad. So it's been busy. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I'm just going to express a note of appreciation to my staff, Garth, Michelle, and Taylor, who've been working really hard this past month, whether they're going to ribbon cuttings or opening of new businesses or dealing with all the stuff that the chairman's office has to deal with at the time in communications, and then, of course, attending with me all of the events we've been doing throughout the county. I just want to say thank you very much, and I'm going to allow Supervisor Lesko to close us out today. Thank you for sharing your inspiring story today.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The one thing I really appreciate about this job is we can get things done. And one of the items that we got done today was item number 93. We didn't really talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it now. And it's a traffic control regulation changes on Happy Valley Road in El Granada, which is in my district. And I'm very excited to say we approved this agenda item today, and it will allow McDOT to install permanent stop signs at the intersection of Happy Valley Road and El Granada. Now, my staff wrote up all this great talking points, but since it's at the end of the day, I'm going to make this short. We've had people in those communities that have contacted our office, and I have to say Bill Leal, who works for me and also works part-time for McDOT, he was very good working with these constituents and then talking to our Maricopa County Department of Transportation, and we really got some things done. We got these permanent stop signs, but then we're also expediting the next step in doing a traffic light study there, and it's really making the constituents happy because it was really dangerous. It was a dangerous intersection for people to get out onto Happy Valley Road. So thank you, Bill, for working on that, and for the Maricopa County Department of Transportation staff. I've actually been working a lot with the Maricopa County Department of Transportation staff and Tom Ellsworth with planning and development too. It's like a lot of BNSF stuff, right? Lots of meetings on the BNSF project. But also I went over into Youngtown, and Youngtown had some concerns on 111th Avenue, so we went back over there again, and we all saw it, and we have some proposals that we can do to create safe crossings for pedestrians on 111th Avenue, which separates Sun City from Youngtown. Also went to Luke Air Force Base, which is a great asset in Maricopa County and the state of Arizona. We have these quarterly meetings there, and they're usually West Valley mayors and Luke Air Force Base, and really great people, really great reminder of how Luke Air Force Base is not only an economic driver in our state, but protects our citizens and trains F-35 pilots. And so very important to national security. Had a few BNSF-related meetings since we last met. Went to the Sun City Grand Club and met a bunch of great constituents there. They're always so patriotic. I love these folks that are in Sun City West, Sun City Grand. They always, do a prayer, a Pledge of Allegiance. They sing God Bless America. It's really enlightening. I really absolutely love going there. Had another West Valley Mayor's meeting, and a really great group of public servants in the West Valley that really care about the West Valley, and I'm really happy to get to know them better. And then yesterday, I went to a Sun City Leadership Coalition, and they're really concerned about people going to Sun City residents' doors with soliciting. Some of them are portraying that they're associated with APS, and they're really trying to sell solar panels, rooftop solar panels. And so some of these people are being, what's the lack of better word, snookered. And so we have to try to help them. And so anyway, it's a great job. It's an interesting job. And I really this is a great example, that road one. Oh my gosh, if I was in Congress, there's no way I could get this thing done. We got this done, and we help people, and I love it. And so with that, I'll yield back.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Nice job, everyone.